Hello and welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, our topic today is how to enhance a natural light photo shoot. Now, Wolfgang, that was funny, he put in here in the comments, this beauty doesn't need that much enhancing. I am going to show you how to enhance a portrait, of course, but I want to pay more attention to the surrounding areas, all right? So if color is going to compete with the subject, we're going to bring the color down a bit. Maybe a black and white will look better, or maybe a mixture of black and white and a color photo will look really good. Either way, I'm going to show you how we can approach a natural light subject. All right, let's get started. So here I am with the beautiful little Erica. I've been photographing Erica since she was 5 years old. Now she's 18. So these were her earlier years. Let me just dive in on an edit, and then I'll go back and I'll explain some of the stuff that I did for the shoot. All right. So here we are with the image. Let me just make sure there's no enhancements made to this. All the way to the bottom. Okay, good. So that's the original image. Now, a couple things we can do. We can start, and if you notice, let me get back here to show you. This is the history panel, by the way. I just clicked on the history icon, and that showed me everything I did to this image. Even when I reset it, it also showed me the times I've reset it also. So what we can do is we're going to start with a template over here, or we can freeform it. It's entirely up to you. I found that by starting with a template, it kind of gives me a good idea of where to begin. So in this case here, we'll use the teal and orange. And already looking at it, look at this. Before and after. It's already looking good, but there are a few things we're going to do to make it look even better. So I'm going to come up to the top. And by the way, did you notice what just happened? Because I went all the way to the bottom for the original, and I clicked on a new, like the template, it erased all of the history from there on. So that's a good way, if you don't want to clutter your history, just go to the original, click on a new one. All right, so here we are with the mask itself, or with the tools themselves. And if I'm looking at the dots next to the name of the tool, it's showing me that these have already been edited or added to this particular look. So I love how this looks with Erica. All right. The grass is competing just a little bit. So what we could do is come over to color and HSL, use saturation and luminance. We can come over to the saturation, and we know it's green. I could dial that down just a little bit. Good. So it's not competing as much. I can also come over here to the luminance, and that's how bright it actually is. So let's bring it down just a little bit. Awesome. So let's look at the difference. Before, after. It doesn't look like a lot, but notice how the focus is not on the background now. It's on Erica. Good, so that looks good there. Now, the way she's dressed, all the vintage outfit, I love what it looks like. When I see this, in my mind, outdoors, her dress in vintage, let's add some soft glow. So we'll come down to the creative tool, the creative section. I'll click on glow, and we have several glows we can pick. We have soft focus, glow, Orton effect soft. Let's try the Orton effect. Now, the Orton effect is kind of interesting. It's one of those tools that it applies sharpness and softness at the same time, but the different parts of the image. So it's making the image sharper and softer with the pixels butted up next to each other. So it's unique in the way that it's doing it. So I have control over how much softness I want. Do we want to make it brighter or a little bit darker? and we can add a little more contrast. Now, if we go to a negative contrast, what's kind of cool about that is it's not making the image flat, but it's taking away that extra sharp. Like, look at this. If we go here, you see how it just looks extra sharp? If I pull it back a little bit, it almost gives us that matte look or that matte feel. For this image, I think that works good because, look, again, we're outside. The way she's dressed, it's lending itself to it. Right about here. Again, turn it on, off. I like it. Where don't we want the image or the softness to be applied to? And that's the eyes and the face area here. So I can click the add mask and erase, but I want to change the opacity, let's say 40-ish%. So instead of erasing at 100%, I'm going to erase at around 40. Now I'm using a pen, and I'm just going to brush over lightly her face. So what you're seeing there in red is the actual mask. If I come over here to the lipstick tool, I can actually show the mask, and you can see that where I'm painting, I'm taking away the effect, whereas the red is adding to the effect. That looks good. Before, after. Oh, look at that. Good. All right. So, good. And Jerry brought up a good point. He says, how do you know when you're done? Well, that's where you have to learn to step away from it after you're done. And I'm going to show you that in a second. So I like everything here. The only thing I want to add differently is a vignette. I'm going to choose my subject. And we'll darken the edges. Bring the size in. Now, under the advanced option, the feathering, look at this. This is going to help spread that vignette. And if I want, I can add a little inner light. Now, keep in mind, just because you have options doesn't mean you have to take them. I mean, just because there's an inner light tool doesn't mean I have to apply it. So I'm going to add just a little bit, simulating somebody throwing a reflector back into her, light back up into her face. Now the vignette tool, look at this. It doesn't look like it did a whole lot, but you see how when we show it on and off, it just brings that focus right to her. Now, to answer Jerry's question here, how do you know when you're done? Thank you. From here, what you can do is this. You step away, or you pick a different image, then you go right back to that same image, and let's give it a second to refresh. And when you look at it, if it looks overdone, there's two things we can do. We can come down here to the master tools, and if you guys can see on the very, very bottom of the screen, if I take this master slider and move it all the way to the left, now there's no effects on the image. Slowly bring it to the right, and usually about 70%, there's no numbers here, but you can kind of calculate between 70 to 80% here is where you want to stop it. And that makes sure that you're not going overboard on your edits. So I'm going to go to 100% again. I like 100%, but I'll back it off just a little. Good. Before. After. I love how it looks. I'm going to come down here, and I want to save this as a new template that I just created. So I'll come over here, and under templates, my templates, the new template I just created is right here. So I'll click on the ellipsis tool. Let's rename it. Now I did use teal and orange, and I added my own little flair to it. So I changed it enough to where it's no longer teal and orange. So I'm going to give it my own. How about natural light? soft. So I gave it my own name. Now, at this point, I really like this a lot. So I can come over here and click the heart icon. So now when I come to the templates, instead of having to search through my templates, I can just come up to the favorites, and there's a new one that I just created. All right? Now, so that gives you an idea of where we have on that. I'm so sorry. Let me pull this up. Wolfgang said the portrait. Thank you so much. It's funny because my own son, I've over photographed him so much as a child, at the age of 24. The only time he lets me photograph him is on Father's Day, and that's when he says he'll sign a model release form. All right, so let's get back here. All right, so I love how this looks here. Let me show you some of the other ones that we did earlier. So under my templates, here's the vintage one that I did. Now, this one, Jerry, I feel I kind of overdid it. I just feel it's overdone. What I did differently here, and I'm going to show you how we're going to fix that, is I did apply under the creative tools the matte look. All right, so I love this matte look, and the matte look's going to give it, I hate to say the word, that old Instagram type look. But again, after looking at this, I felt like I went overboard. So I'm going to dial it back right about here. And now I'm liking it again. Now, if I wanted to, so the color's kind of bugging me, that green here, we just dial that down just a little bit. And let's take the saturation of that green. Right there. All right. So I love how this is. Well, guess what? Let's come down here. Save it again. That was vintage 1. Come back to your templates. Let's rename it to vintage 2. And now you know vintage 2 was an off-take of vintage 1, but you did something different to it. And you could put in here, muted the colors or something to make you remember 2 weeks from now or even a year from now what you did differently. So here's one option we can give Erica. Here's another option we can give her. We can see the black and white. Oh, look at that, black and white. Here's another option we can give her. If I come down here to the master control, and I'm going to dial the black and white back just a bit, look at that. Now we have a third option, or a fourth option, we can give her here, and here's a soft vintage one. And that's more flat. So you have to decide which one do you like the best. I like vintage 2. Natural light with soft focus looks really good. In fact, that's what I'm going to keep. So I like this. Then from here, I can export it, save to disk, and let's give it a complete. And I want to save it as a JPEG because I'm going to send this to her. This is fine. I'm going to send this to her through my phone. I'll text it to her. All right. So where do I want to save it? Well, let's browse. And I believe I have Erica under here. Yep, Erica Megan. Let's create a new folder. I'm going to call this underscore because I want it to go to the top. Complete. So notice I went right to the top. And now I'm going to select it there. So now when I export this, I can go to Erica's folder, find all the completes, and then send that off to her. All right? Let's check in on some of the comments. Julie, did a picture he sent to you and got a halo and couldn't get rid of it? Thank you, Julie. I'm going to double check that. Thanks for reminding me. We have a ton of emails that came in because of the new update that's coming up. But if I don't respond to you by today, please shoot me another message. Just remind me and I'll make sure it's there. All right. So, Rich, so when saving an edit, if there is a mask within the edit, is the mask saved? That's a good question. So let's help answer that. Ready? So let's go back to Erica. The easiest way to do this would be a black and white template. All right. So let's go to the soulful one, black and white. Here we go. So we have black and white. And I'm going to come over to the black and white tool. And we'll click on the layer mask. Now from here, let's just paint, erase the effect. Like, I can't believe I'm going to do this. Let's see. Well, okay, it's not as bad because I don't have a red someplace in here. That was the color. You know what I was getting at, right? Remember the old days when they did the selective coloring? So let's say we did that. All right. So we just made Erica's face. The mask was on here, so we can see the mask. There it is. All right. So hide the mask. Let's see what happens, Richard. I come down here. Oh, let me save it yet. I know why. Because I have to make a change. There. I made a slight change. Now I can save it. Because we saved it as black and white version 2. Oh, well, I bet you did save it. Yep, it saved it. So here's black and white, soulful black and white, and a 2. Let's change it. Ready? Now let's see if the mask saved with it. Boom. So notice what just happened. That, and you have to be mindful of this, if you add a mask to an image like this, the mask is going to be saved, but let me double check something to be on the safe side. Let's choose a different image. We'll use this one. Edit. I'm sorry, template. And we're going to pick the one we just did. And in the there we go. And look what just happened. So, can you see where you have to be careful when you're creating a mask? If you don't want that mask, to be like we're doing right here, if you don't want the mask to be a huge part of the photo, then don't apply it. Because look what just happened here. If you applied this mask like this, well, then every time you apply this particular template, the mask is going to be applied in the exact same spot that you added it. It doesn't know, we put the face over here. It has no idea about that. So, to answer your question, Richard, yes, the mask will be saved with it. You have to decide when you want to apply a mask and when not to. So I'm going to come over here and hit delete. So, Richard, thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to go a little bit over just a little bit because this brings out a good point. Here I am getting all creative, getting all excited, and I'm working through it. I added a mask, I get done, and I say, you know what? I love this template. Let's save it. Well, if I saved it with a mask, now you saw what just happened. It's not going to apply properly. So what you can do is go back into the program, and because of the history tool, I would go in fact, we could do it right here. I would go into the history tool, and all right in here is where I would go back, remove the mask from that tool, save it, the new template, save it, and then just go back into the history tool where you made that change and revert to the original change that you just did, and now you don't have to start all over again. All right, but you have to keep in mind that when you apply that template to a new image, you can apply the layer mask. All right, so I hope that worked there. Yes, so Julie, so that's what we just said. Can you remove the mask? Yeah, can you remove the mask? Yes, we can remove it and then bring it back again. All right, so that worked out great. If you have questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments below. So now that I answered how I would edit a natural light portrait, especially for the images like with Erica here as a kid, now let's take it one step further. And if you saw the entire shoot, so here's the shoot. Here's the shoot. She's going to kill me for showing you guys some of these. So here's the entire shoot. Now this wall or fence, it was in my subdivision. So I'm driving down and I look over to the right and there's that fence. It's all beat up. The homeowner association wants to tear it down, replace it. As a photographer, I wasn't looking at what I saw. I was looking at what it could be. And in this case here, I saw it to being a beautiful, look at this. Down here more, where's it up here? Actually go to favorites. Yeah, look at this. I mean, I looked at this and I saw a beautiful backdrop. All right, so that's a really nice backdrop. Now to get this shot, I did use natural light, but notice up here in the corner, I also added a touch of fill light because Erica has very, very dark eyes. I mean, she still does. She has very, very dark pupils. So when we photograph, I have to add a lot of light to her face. Ooh, that looks good. Soft vintage. Nope. So I'm going to go back up to this one here. I like where that's at. And then what I would end up doing is cropping it, of course. Get rid of the softbox. There we go. And then we're set. All right. So again, how I got the shot was we went through we went through my subdivision and I looked up and I saw all the trees closing the shade. So that's called closed shade. So I looked up, I saw the trees, the canopy, that looked awesome, and thought, well, this would be a great place to shoot because I don't need to bring in this huge scrim or be worried about the light dropping down on her. So I photographed her in closed shade. We used a light coming off to the side just to add a little more fill to her. And then on some of the shots, which you can't see, let's see if I can bring it in. Nope. On some of the shots, all we used was a diffuser. There we go. Was a diffuser up on top just to soften the light because when the light came through the trees, it scattered all over her. So by putting the diffuser right here, it diffused the light coming through, and you can pick them up very cheap. The 5-in-1 diffusers are those big circular ones. They're pretty inexpensive, and that's something you should always have when you go out on natural light shoots. All right? Good, and we're all set. Just checking to make sure. Russell says, what happens in coffee break stays in coffee break. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you have questions, please leave them in the comments below or ideas for future episodes. Let us know, and we'll get to those when we can. Well, I'm Vanelli. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next coffee break.